Hello and welcome to Live Coding Happy Hour, your weekly, semi-weekly get-together with a bunch of nerds and a bunch of beer, and we just code. I'm Dave Slusher. We've got, for the first time ever, a panel of four. I'll just say your name and wave. Chuck Tomasi.
Hi, I'm Chuck.
Andrew Barnes.
Hi, I'm Andrew.
And our returning prodigal son, who we haven't seen in, I don't think in calendar 2018, Josh Nerius.
Hey, I am Josh.
All right. So what we're going to do today, we're going to basically pick right back up from the place we were at the last time Josh was on, I think. I think this may have been the very last thing you did, Josh, is we've got a Flow Designer Spoke in Kingston. I just realized I'm wearing my Kingston shirt.
Nice.
And,
Oh, nice.
So we have a YouTube Spoke that we started working on where we wanted to be able to schedule these very shows you're watching from our ServiceNow instance with the full metadata, the full options and everything. So we're going to kind of pick up that work. Should I pull back the kimono, Josh, why this is important to you and me?
Well, you might as well. Probably.
We might as well. We're presenting a breakout talk on how we did this at Knowledge.
So we kind of have
my
to do
Knowledge 10 thing. And then my Knowledge 10, they said, you're a finalist for the Innovation of the Year Award. I said, oh, I better finish the app.
So we're
It's
going
in
to
2
present.
weeks.
Yeah, we're going to present on the thing we did. So it ought to be done by May 8th.
You can
So
say
anyway.
this is true ServiceNow fashion.
There's nothing about this that I'm proud of, but that is the reality of life. So let's give our longer intros, and in the interest of time, let's do our beer at the same time. So Josh?
Yeah, so I am Josh Nerius. It's still really tempting to say developer evangelist or advocate. I'm actually now a product manager at ServiceNow focusing on integrations and authentication. And today my beer is a Three Floyds. I had to look it up. It's a Necron 99. I couldn't actually read the label because of the typeface. But anyway, it's an IPA. We'll see how it goes.
All right. And Andrew?
Hi, I'm Andrew Barnes. I work at Novant Health as a client, and I have today a known gnome from Off Color Brewing from Chicago.
Chicago,
There you go.
nice.
And Chuck?
Hi, Chuck Tomasi, Senior TPMM with ServiceNow. You may know me from other videos such as Tech Now, Tech Shorts, and Community Livestream. And I am drinking an Ocean Beach West Coast style IPA.
All right. And I'm Dave Slusher, developer advocate with the Platform Business Unit here at ServiceNow. I am drinking a Young's Double Chocolate Stout.
Oh,
yeah.
And you can see, actually, I didn't quite finish it the last time. So this is, I have no idea if this little wine stopper is going to be worth anything. So this may be kind of a harrowing drink. All right.
It might be just like the Earth, flat.
Oh, careful.
Yikes.
Everybody
right.
knows the Earth is round like a dinner plate.
All right. So Josh, let's go ahead into your screen share and let's start. So I don't know if we need to give any more background than what I did in the intro. So you can get your screen up. We'll just start kind of figuring out where we're at. There's going to be a couple minutes here where we're going to have a kind of a voyage of rediscovery because I think we're not 100% certain on where we're at with the app. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the existing flow we've already got and we're going to rerun that thing. See exactly what that does, and see if our recollection matches what we see on there. So,
Yep, that is the plan. So I went exploring a little bit, and let me just refresh here so everything is good to go. And one of the things we found out near the end of last time was that we were doing some things we didn't need to do. There were a couple of concepts on the YouTube side related to creating a stream and then creating a broadcast that's associated with the stream. And we found out that we could just reuse a stream and schedule broadcasts associated with it. So I think what we're doing right now is double duty, but we're just going to see.
It's actually worse than double duty, Josh, because it's actively harmful because we have a stream key set up that everybody, like the other things, know. So we really don't want that to change because that's used downstream. So if that changes every time, then we don't want that.
That's a really good point. Yeah, so it's worse than double. Actually, what I'm going to do before I do this is create a new artifact for today so that we're not confusing this. Here's how we can actually figure out when we were working on this last, because if I hit the test button, this says November 17th.
Oh my.
I think that's the last time, unless we were reusing November 17th later, but I think that actually might be accurate.
I think I was
right.
Now for sure we were doing it in December, but I think I was driving. So
Okay, got it. So I'm just going to create a new one. It's not May yet. It's still April.
it's April.
It was snowing the other day, so it kind of felt like February, but it is.
I'm definitely not ready for May because that would mean knowledge is in like days.
It already is in days.
I'm
Right.
down to hours.
And I think we had this thing keyed on live stream, so I'm just going to set that, and we'll go ahead and see what happens. So I'll go ahead and test it. April 20. And one of the things that'll be interesting here is to see if the credentials are all good to go as well. I did go in and I hit the get token button before we started, but it's been a while. So, and everything completed and is green. So at this point, we'll take a look at our beautiful operations view here, and let's see what it did. So we hit schedule broadcast. That actually did go out and it created something. Create a live stream. Although this feels like this is in the wrong order, or maybe not. I don't know.
I don't think it really matters because then the next step is you associate them. So it really, like you could create them in either order and then you do the bind step. So that's basically, that's the equivalent of saying, like in the user interface, you go and you say, I'm going to use this stream key for this event.
That makes sense.
And so that's what that number 4 is right there.
Yeah, that makes sense. So then it goes out there, does the bind stream. Here's the values. I don't know if it, oh yeah, we can get down to the detail. So, I mean, all indications are that it was successful. So let's just look at the artifact. Well, actually, let's look at the YouTube side. So this is going to my personal YouTube account, I hope. Or is it?
Oh.
There it is.
Yeah.
And it's scheduled for November 18th.
Next year, or this year, later this year.
Now we know why it's sorted to the bottom.
Yeah, and actually that would be because when we were doing this last time, we
I think we hard coded the date.
yeah, we did.
Oops.
So all right, but either way, we can take a look at this. I think we have to go to the live control room, and this is where we can see what stream key it actually has. And so now it says it's using a reusable stream key. So effectively what we did was we created a new stream key just for today, but we actually want to use the existing one that's there. So, and that's really kind of the next step, is figuring out how to do that.
All right. So, so one of the things is back in your flow, we got the, if you can switch back to your flow for 1 second. In the actual flow, we did the create live stream, and then the output of that joker is what we used as the input to that bind stream, right?
Oh, yeah.
That stream ID. So now what we have two different things, which is how do we figure that out from YouTube? What the actual ID they want is for the existing one. So that's kind of just a sorting out YouTube issue.
Yeah.
And then the other one is we've also got an architectural decision, which is given that we kind of want to keep an eye towards the reusability of this, ultimately, like the best case scenario is that we have a YouTube spoke we could publish and let other people use. We've got to figure out a nice way to store that stream key, that is easily usable. So a system property or something like that.
Assuming everybody wants to use the same stream key, we should give them the option to make a reusable one or generate a new one every time, right?
I mean, that's a good question. I think it's a design decision. One of the things that you could do, so for us, we only care about one. right now.
Okay.
And I could see a future where you would maybe care about multiple stream keys, but for the sake of it might make sense to actually ship a table with the spoke that stores stream keys that you can reference.
That's what I was thinking.
Kind of
Or
like
maybe-
servers and say, this is my default, and here's if you explicitly set one, or
maybe we're thinking one too specific, and maybe because we are like in the spoke, we don't necessarily like. You tell me, Josh. You would know this better than anyone. Do spokes normally ship with flows or only actions?
I mean, you can ship flows, and I think sometimes it's nice to ship a flow as an example to show, what things look like. And but generally, I mean, actions really are the core thing that you would want to ship.
So like the show, like, so we have that schedule, or not the schedule. Well, I think the problem is what we've got is in that schedule broadcast, we definitely need to pull out that substep that's doing the broadcast stream. And that's maybe another top level action.
Well, yeah. So you could do two things there. I mean, the one thing would be you could do an action that's get stream key.
I'm sorry. I actually did. I was confused. We that is already an action. So really, for our particular flow, we don't want that create live stream, but we just need pulling out that stream key from somewhere, a property or whatever.
Yeah, we just need to get that from somewhere. So I mean, so the thing is, you could. The question would be where you actually want to define this, and I could see this being a thing that you say, I just define this directly on my flow because I don't want my table to have to know about stream keys. So for example, we could in the artifact manager throw a column on there and say which stream do we actually want to associate this with or something like that. But the problem there is then now you're saying with an artifact manager has direct knowledge of the YouTube spoke, which is probably not great.
Well, it doesn't have to be direct knowledge of the YouTube spoke, but I actually am fine with like completely making the spoke not maintain the key in any way. So it's really just an input to the flow.
Yeah, that'd be an option. So, so actually, you know what? Yeah, let's think about it that way. Let's think about the stream key in this case as data associated with Artifact Manager, but we don't have to actually directly bind it to.
You're still going to need a way to retrieve it and store it.
Well, so one way you could look at this would be, so let me just create an action. So if I create an action, then it's something like get stream key. When you're building a flow, you could simply say that, when I'm doing the get stream key step, it could even be reasonable to hard code the name of the stream key because that's the stream key that you want. Have this thing go out there, get the ID, and then just use it.
That's kind of a...
Or we just create a table and store it in the table.
How about, why don't we do the thing that requires the least decision right now, for the purpose of the next 45 minutes, and we'll think about this. So why don't we treat it as a complete input to the flow right now, and then we will think about, because really the question is, do we want the spoke to maintain this or not, right?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. And I think you could argue you could argue both sides depending on how you think about it. But yeah, if we can just, I guess at this point, figure out how to get it, we can hard code it in there for now. At some point, we can figure out how to abstract it away. But for the purposes of getting LCHH up and running, we just need to be able to pass it in.
Yeah, let's just pass it in for right now. We'll keep this as an open architectural question. All these options, because I'm not like right now, and I'm not sure if we're gonna, because we could probably spend 45 minutes talking about this one decision.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, there's a point at which you could say that you might need more than just a series of actions. You might need an app that's more, directed at managing YouTube versus just doing some, single actions against stuff like we are now. But anyway, so with that in mind, I guess the biggest issue here is we have to figure out how to get the ID of the stream key. Because if I look at this, I want to be able to use LCHH. But if we look at the flow that we executed, let me just go down and look at this execution.
And you get, if I recall right, that's like some weird GUID type thing, right?
Yeah, I believe it is. So where did that go?
Question is,
Here
now
it is.
I'm going to look at the API while you're doing that and to see, is there a like look up stream key by name type thing?
That's what I was just
Right.
wondering. Let's check the API list.
There is a list.
Live
Where is
streams, filter, the ID specifies a comma separated.
Hmm.
Why don't you do the try it now? Try this API and let's see what it tells us. What's
So
what is the part though?
So in this case, the part names that you can include, so we just want to get the ID. I'll just add a few. ID, snippet, status. I don't know what those are, but
Oh, that's basically saying what fields I want. Is that right?
yeah, I believe so.
Vaguely familiar from 5 months ago.
Uh-huh. I'm surprised I remember anything from back then. All right. So no filter selected, expected one of default ID param, mine, or ID. So I guess we can just say default when in doubt. But where's the filter? I guess I'll just say mine. Maybe that'll do it. Okay.
Okay. 200. It's okay.
There we go. And so there's LCHH April 20.
Take those spaces out and try that again.
Oh, it worked.
Nope.
Oh, you got a
Okay.
nice
Yeah. Let me just pull
payload.
this out and do I have Visual Studio Code? Oh no. This is a new computer. I don't have any good editors.
Okay. If you look at that payload, I think what you have right there is enough.
Yeah, so I'm just going to copy this channel ID. We'll just use that.
Well, here's what we could do. If you want to, we could create an action right now, which is get stream ID by name.
Is the stream ID the channel ID or is it the ID?
I think it's that ID.
Yeah, I think it's the ID.
So if I
Yeah.
recall correctly,
Realize it.
if I recall correctly, it's longer than that. That's the
Well,
only way
we-
you can tell the difference, right? I don't know what the difference of these things are.
Yeah, well, the channel ID is I think the channel that this is associated with.
Mhm.
So, and the other way
Okay.
we can verify this is ending in 2182. And if we look at this execution, there's 2182.
2182.
So we've got it.
So you want to create that action, Josh?
You don't want
There's
that
a
one
lookup.
though. That's your April 20th key. You
That
want
is
the-
the April 20th key.
You
Yeah.
want a little bit further down.
But what we can do here is create the action, which is
Yeah.
I already started to create one. Let me
You
see.
did start. Where was it?
It might be gone now.
Canceled it out.
Yeah, I think I did. So I'm just going to say get stream ID,
Glad Andrew's here. He's paying attention.
and we'll submit that. And on our inputs, we'll say name, I guess.
Sure. Yes.
And then we'll add a REST step. We'll add a script step first. Actually, we might not even need a script step. Let me just add the REST step and see if we need to build the payload or not. And as before, we can use a connection alias, and this is all set up, so that's good to go. And our resource path is going to be
You've become quite fluid at this.
He gets a little practice.
This is true. It would be. I'm just waiting for the thing that completely stumps me and is embarrassing because I should know it.
You do actually
now
have
you jinxed it.
you do actually have a higher risk in this role than you used to have.
I also have to make sure that I talk about things that are actually live. Anyway, so
You know what they say, the higher up the flagpole you go, the more your butt sticks out.
I'm not sure how I'm going to take that, but we're just going to move right on.
So the part thing that you passed in, that is a query parameter.
Yeah, so that's what I need to look at here is what does this actually look like? So,
and the mine, if you want to use it, is also, so the mine and the part are query parameters.
Okay.
Not,
I will say part.
Nothing.
And mine. True. And that. And in this case, you might say you should put those in as parameters or something, but we actually don't want to expose these because we know what they are. And so we don't want to make the user decide when they have to use the action. So I think that should be it. We can just try it. I'm going to create a new flow for testing this.
And as a reminder, all the times, save in Flow Designer, because that's what you do.
Yeah, save often. You don't have to publish, though. You could still use it as a draft.
Yeah, I published it only because I didn't want to have to hit the button.
I did it once.
So YouTube and
get stream ID.
Get stream ID, indeed. And that should be LCHH.
This would be really cool. Go, go, go.
Give that a test. It completed. It's green.
And
does it end in?
Oh, would you look at that? So we got a
lovely
payload. Beautiful. Right. So now this is a little
2182
like
even.
it, but well, so the problem is we didn't actually filter down to the single one that we wanted.
Right.
And so the question is if we can do that. The other option is this is a small enough payload we can just loop through this until we find what we want.
Yeah. But the problem being that if you look in there, the like the page size is 5, and so if they have more than 5 stream keys,
oh, that'd be a problem.
It could be, yeah. So
you can loop through and still not get yours.
That's correct. So either we have to handle like paging through everything, if you don't find it, like continuing to page, which is kind of a pain, or we can look and see, can we pass the name in as a parameter?
That's what we're looking for.
To identify the streams.
What's the page token that was on the bottom of that?
So that would be if you were actually, so the page token would be what you would use to get the next page. So I believe the way this works, yeah, you'll get a next page token and a previous page token, versus passing in a number or something. The trouble, though, I would much rather see if there's a way to filter this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at it. And I'm not seeing
search second.
Yeah, I'm not seeing the. I'm not seeing a filter option.
So this actually might drive our design, which is that you could argue that there needs to be some kind of regular synchronization of your stream keys, and you store those locally, versus trying to do what we're doing here.
The ID parameter specific.
Yeah, so mine and then ID.
So that ID, so you can basically say, give me the subset of the IDs. So you can pass some IDs, which is kind of the opposite of what we want, right? We don't want, if we knew the ID, we wouldn't need to pass it in.
Right. Yeah. So
I'm not even 100% sure of the value of that, unless you're trying to get other information about the ID or the stream that's not the.
So you're sending your YouTube ID, not the stream ID, not the particular session ID, right? So
I think what it's saying is pass in a comma separated list of IDs, and it will only return those IDs back in this list. So it would give you more information about them than just the ID, like with the whole rest of that payload you specify, but not. It's backward. We want the other thing. We want to pass in another aspect and have it return the IDs. So I think this is maybe a blind alley for right now for what we're trying to do.
Yeah. So here's what I would probably do in this case, because it seems to me like the design of that API is guiding us down a path that would be create a table that stores stream names and IDs, and then just have a scheduled flow that runs every X amount of time and says get the stream IDs. So you always have this maintained list of stream IDs, and then in the other actions, you could just have an input to those actions, a reference to the stream ID table.
It'd be faster. You wouldn't have to make the REST call to get that back, in your flow. So your flow would be a little bit faster because it's not doing so many API calls.
And not only, and particularly like the situation we're worried about, if you have to page through it, that's a REST call per.
Right. So, okay. Well, I think what we can do for now is we'll just make. Well, so here's the thing, though.
How about this? Why don't we say, because let's pass in the max results parameter and set it to 50, which is the maximum.
That's reasonable.
And say if it's not in the first 50, you're not going to get it.
You're doing it wrong.
That would work. Let me go back to. And the thing is, this action is still usable because let's see here. So actually, what we can do is I'm going to rename this to get stream. Get live streams.
Yeah, that's descriptive.
Oh, are you breaking this down into? You're really decomposing this, rather than doing what we were talking about, which would be filtering it out. You're going to have a different. Action.
He's going to grab them all and populate the table.
Yeah.
I'm actually not even going to do that.
No?
I'm just going to pass the payload out, and here's why. I don't like this, but I feel like it's an interim solution, which is I'm going to have the action get all the streams and kick out the payload, and then I'll have another action that takes the payload and looks for a particular stream. And it's not great. I don't think it's a final solution, but it's a solution that we could then expand later to actually process and build the table. But we don't have to break everything to do that. So that's my thought process.
Interesting.
So why don't you actually, not to beat to death the tiny decisions, but why don't we call this get live streams payload so it's completely obvious what's happening?
Do we run out of characters?
I don't think Josh's keyboard will let him.
There we go. No, it will. So no, I'm just thinking about this because this is where and going back to the tiny decisions, there's always this back and forth of how technical or how non-technical should an action be, and usually you'd want the action to be something that anybody could understand and use. But the thing is this is returning just JSON, so by definition, it's a little bit more technical.
Yeah, you're already there.
I think before we get it to before we got this to publish, I think this would not be in it, honestly.
Agreed. Yeah, I think this is just an interim solution.
Because like you say, this is kind of opposite of the Flow Designer philosophy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's for those someday best practices around Flow Designer and actions that we've been talking about for a while.
And so I'll just pass that straight out. And publish. And then we'll say get stream ID from payload.
And as we say, this may or may not collapse into a single thing in final form. We're basically what we're doing right now is kicking a can down the road and avoiding making a decision right now.
And we're doing it in a way that's as reusable as possible. And so we'll say var payload equals JSON.parse. And then what we need to do is look at the structure here, which is going to have something called items. Items is an array, and we need to loop through items until the items ID. No, until the items snippet.title.
Snippet.title.
Items.snippet.title. Yeah, matches what we're looking for. And we're also missing a input variable.
Oh yeah. Or are we? Where?
Because we need to know the title we're trying to pull out of there.
Oh yeah, that's a very important point.
Oopsie. Good catch.
The further I'm going down this path, the more I don't like it.
Well, in the interest of time, we're
just gonna keep going this way, but we're gonna just
get it work. It's for a demo.
Future watching. What we're doing does not necessarily imply endorsement or recommendation.
You can see that PM brain kicking in.
Oh, the things I've had to anyway. So payload.items.forEach. And so we'll have a reference to item. And at this point, we're going to say if item.snippet.id equals inputs.name, and I have to define inputs.name, then we will say, let's create an output called stream ID. Oh. That's right.
And you're also still missing the you're missing your name, the input to this step.
Yeah. Somebody taking screenshots over there?
No, not at all.
Wasn't me.
Outputs.streamID equals
the paparazzi. We now have paparazzi on this show.
Item.snippet.id. I think that does it.
No, hold on. We got a wire crossed here because we're crossing name and GUID in there. So one of those two is not right. If you can go back to Payload.
Yeah. No, you're right.
No.
I haven't live coded in a while. It's a good thing I'm getting some practice before.
That's all right. That's all right. This is the most I've ever caught pre-clicking the button in history.
You are on it today, Dave.
That's some good stuff.
His beer is flat.
Yeah, I don't want to drink it.
That's the problem. Get that man some more beer.
There's no alcohol left in that.
All right. So I think that does it.
Then your output.
Then we actually have
fire that up. Yeah.
Gotta do the final one. Yeah.
This is the thing that, like, Chuck and I, that we kept running onto this is like the full plumbing of every one of these steps to everything. Didn't we have problems with that, Chuck, where we weren't wiring all those connections from beginning to end?
Yeah, and then the inputs to the action and the outputs to the action. It's like it was catching us a lot. So yes, you're getting better at it.
Every one of these things is like the stud and a hole on a Lego, and we didn't have all our Lego pieces hooked up together.
I think we're a few bricks short ourselves.
So we're going to do get live streams payload, LCHH, and we're going to say add an action called get stream ID from payload. And we'll pass in payload and we'll pass in the name. Actually, in this case, I'm just going to hard code the name.
Mm-hmm.
And that should be it. So let's see what it does. Run it. Look at the ops view. And what's it got? It's empty.
Weren't.
So, question is, let's just take a look at this. I think it's because I said name. Maybe.
Oh.
Yeah, you did say name.
Title.
All right.
Yep.
Yeah. So title equals name.
Oh, we're calling it name everywhere else too. Oops.
Yeah, I should probably realign those.
And your other action could output the same as the input so that you could just pick it up from one action to the next with the data pill picker instead of hard coding it twice.
Take a look at that.
And?
Still doesn't like it.
Items.
And
Snippet and title.
And title.
So at this point, what we can do is start actually throwing some logs in here.
Item.snippet. Items.
Was it items or items?
Let's look at our payload. Let's make sure items is items may not be a top level item. Let's look at payload.
Well, that's a good point. You know, you said it as I was thinking it.
It looks like it's top level.
And it's items.
Is it buried inside of result or something?
I'm sure you have item versus items.
Yeah, so it's item inside the for each because that was how I defined it. So I'm going payload, which should be the whole thing, dot items.
Oh, items. There you are.
Yeah.
Isn't it inputs.payload? Oh, because no, you already parsed it as payload. Okay, payload is the object based on the inputs payload.
Mm-hmm.
That's not going to get us into trouble. No, okay, we're good.
If you're passing it the items, do you reference it that item dot snippet? Yeah, I guess you do.
Here's what I would do, Josh, and rather than putting any log anywhere, you throw a breakpoint on line 4.
I don't think that's going to work.
It's not going to work. It's not going to work. Never mind. Because
we tried that on the last show.
Sorry to say. That's
if only.
Someday.
I love the debugger.
Someday. But I think let me do this. I'm going to throw something here. So we'll say gs.info payload. And
it feels so wrong to do that now because of how much I use the debugger.
And I am putting payload here. It should just say object, and that's all I want to see. And then inside of here, I want to say
see if we can get the title out of one of them.
Item dot. Yeah, I'll just say item dot title.
Snippet dot title.
Yep.
Okay.
And then finally, we'll say
match found.
For completeness sake, why don't you also throw name in there as well?
Name and where? Oh, to
input.
Make sure that you're getting what you expect to get. Good point.
Good point.
I would be absolutely flabbergasted if that's a problem, but I've seen.
No, it's good to make sure everybody's home.
It's the thing you don't check.
Give that a shot.
Is that the voice of experience, Andrew?
I have a lot of junior devs.
Let's see.
We were all junior devs at one point.
So let's go to our logs. It says no logs. That doesn't seem right. There's the script step.
How could it be having no logs?
That's what I don't understand. So let's take a look at the payload. Let me just make sure. So the payload actually is there, and it appears to be a real thing. Maybe, is it the kind of log that I did? Because I was doing gs.info. I guess I could.
That should count.
Yeah, it should. Or is something else going on? So let's
if it's airing before then for some reason, those
like the system
don't do
logs?
anything.
Anything in the system logs that's worth noting?
Let's take a look.
Oops.
That's
Cool.
a special list spelling today.
Yes, yes, yes.
One time only.
Wouldn't you be amazed if it worked?
Why am I? It's kicking me out. It's saying I'm not logged in. That's really weird.
Yeah, how could you not be logged in another tab? That is weird.
I would have just gone to the main window and done.
Oh,
system
actually,
logs.
I know why. I know why. It's because Firefox in their container.
That's quite containerized.
Yep. Containers
Right.
are great, but sometimes you get weird stuff like that. Oh, so here's all the logs. So
Oh, wait a
it's that
second.
for each, and it says it matched.
Okay. So why didn't we get an output?
All right, let's go back and look at the.
So outputs.streamid. Did I misspell it?
Nah! The case is wrong.
Cases.
Is
I just
it?
copied it and pasted it, and it's
Yeah,
good.
Is it?
Is that just my?
It's just visually different, but that is the correct for that font, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, whoa, it's not. Oh, whoa, back up. It's not item.snippet.id. Go back to your payload.
Snippet dot title.
I think it's item. I think it's item.id. I think that's.
Oh,
Oh,
Item-
it is item.id.
Is that what it is? Item dot yeah.
ID. ID is.
And we talked about this too, but yeah.
+1 for Dave. I think you're up about 3 or 4 today.
Yeah,
Take a drink,
yeah.
Get rid of all my.
I don't think we have
logs.
enough points for Dave today.
Now that's the Josh. That removing the logs right there. That is a level of optimism that exceeds mine.
I just want a gun. It's driving me nuts. All right.
I'd leave
This
him in
is
there in
not what
production.
we wanted to spend our time on.
That's like the colonists burning the ships right there. You're committed.
They didn't burn them. They just turned them into churches.
I trust that it worked. Oh, it did.
Oh, yay.
Beautiful.
Your
There we
optimism
go.
paid off.
Cool. So
So-
now,
Sometimes you gamble and win when you go to knowledge and play in the.
This is a hackathon right now.
so what I'm going to do is I'm going to save the original thing as V1 and save it. And then I'm going to copy this. And say this is schedule YouTube broadcast V2.
Yeah, Chuck, to your point before when you were talking about the ways you might want to do it, it would make perfect sense to, like, if we have actions for all these things,
Yeah.
to have a flow that is schedule flow and create key with one-time key, schedule flow, schedule event with permanent key, schedule flow with one-time use key. I just have all that, have them all, like have an example flow for each one, and then have all the actions to support you doing whatever you want, right?
So what actually just happened there is I was trying to copy that flow, and that flow had a draft action in it, so it didn't let me copy it. So I
That's
just need
news.
to
Okay. Interesting.
add just a little tip there if you're running into that issue.
One more reason to publish.
Yep. So let's go to V2, and then I don't want this in YouTube. I want this in Artifact Manager because we don't want our flow logic. It's already one in V2. All right, fine. We'll call it V3. And I'll clean it up later. Action type not
Action
found.
type not found.
That's pretty interesting. Well, we'll do this. It says it already created it, so let's see if it did, and we'll use what it created. There it is, V2.
The and just a kudo for Flow Designer. I like being able to change the scope of something right there, rather than have this implied global scope of what you have picked in the scope picker.
Oh yeah, I use that all the time as well. That is huge. So okay, so we got rid of the create live stream, and so at this point, I guess we could do this after. Let me put this here. So we'll say YouTube dot get live streams. And we don't actually need the name in here, so because we're not using the name, are we?
Yeah.
Add another one. Get stream ID. And that's going to come from here. Yep, I hate this a lot, but it's going to be fine. And then finally, in our bind stream, we'll get the stream ID from there.
And just for fun, why don't we go ahead and did you already delete the one while I was not looking?
Delete which one?
Delete the original create the stream key stuff?
I did. Yeah,
Okay.
I took that out. Yep. So in theory, this should all be good. What I do want to do is go in here and I'm just going to say put a number 2 title on there instead. And clear out the URL because we don't want it. And we'll do a test.
All right. And so the expectation, if like full success would be you go over to your YouTube, you see an event that is created with the original LCHH stream key.
Mm-hmm.
Failure, like an intermediate failure would be you get that number 2. Well, that couldn't even exist because we don't even have that step in there. So failure would be is not correct. You have a not correctly associated one.
Yeah, that would be true. So here,
Here's number 2. Did you say
here's
number 1 or number 2?
number two.
Yeah.
Okay.
So go into there, and then if we look at ingestion settings, that should be associated with LCHH key, and it is.
Beautiful.
Yay.
Ooh, take a drink.
Take a drink.
Beautiful.
Indeed. So, stream key taken care of.
So there is. So of the 4 of us on this call, I am the one who is the happiest to see this working because we're getting this much
You're the
closer.
one doing the pain, so yes, we know.
We're getting this much closer to me never doing this by hand again.
Till YouTube changes their API.
Like, okay. Do we have in the time remaining? Do we want to look at seeing if we can set options?
Yeah, let's take a look.
Yes.
So, live broadcasts.
That's what makes your life happy, isn't it?
That's really like the delta. That's the last part of the delta between being able to really do this and I mean, if I do it like what we have now, if I took exactly what we had now, it would require another step where I went in and did some more stuff.
Mhm.
What I really want is for this to schedule a good to go, ready to stream thing when it's done.
Yeah, so I think what we need to do is I want to first look at the action that's doing the broadcast creation. So let's take a look at that. So schedule broadcast is taking in a title and a start time. It's building a payload. And I think we might not have to do a second step. I'm hoping we can just add to this. And by the way, there's that hard-coded 1118.
Nice.
Because we didn't want to write the code to come up with the time in that format.
But
Date,
it's not even that hard to do because we will have that in the art. We would have that in the artifact. But I think the part of the deal is that like right now, the thing like we particularly are going to hook it to they don't both exist on the same instance. So
yeah.
Oh,
so that would really be. In fact, let's think about that for 1 second. Is the architecture of that is that date? We're going to pass it in. Would that be an input to the whole flow, right?
Well, so the date could just be part of the artifact. So as long as the artifact has the date.
Yeah, but
then-
I don't want to tie it that I don't want to tie the flow to the artifact that closely.
isn't the artifact the trigger?
Yeah, so the artifact is the trigger. I mean, so the thing is, you could, or I guess you would probably want to expose.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Our flow is going to be. We can make a flow that's completely specific to the artifact.
Right. Yeah, the flow can be
Okay.
specific, and the flow can get the flow could get it from the artifact, or it could get it from somewhere else.
Wait, what's going to trigger the artifact? What's going to trigger the flow? Isn't it time-based? Would you schedule this?
No, I would probably do it on like either an insert or an update of the artifact, I would think.
Okay, but don't you want to schedule this event at a certain point? Oh, I saw earlier the trigger was if it's this type and goes to this state, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what triggers the workflow.
Yeah, and then at that point, it's just hanging out on the YouTube side, ready to go, and
could be 3 weeks in advance. Nobody cares.
Right.
This does actually imply, and I'm taking notes of everything that doesn't exist yet. This also implies what happens when you change. So we would probably have the flow trigger on insert or like
update.
Either insert or like update to that specific state. But then what happens if you change it and is not transitioning that state? Like, so you've edited something about it. Then we also need a edit an already scheduled type flow.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Slightly
yeah.
different actions.
I mean, the other thing you could do would be like a changes to state, and you could have some kind of a resync state or something, which feels yucky. But essentially, it would just be anytime it goes into this sync to YouTube state, it syncs to YouTube.
Yeah, I'm not at all proposing we do or think any more about that. Just
something to think about.
Kind of
and it's something that's going to get better in the future. I'll just put it that way. So.
That almost sounds like I mean, I'm not trying to
sneaky.
read too much into you, but what I heard a while back was we would have a REST API or some way to trigger a flow from, say, a UI action.
Those are great ideas.
Those are great ideas.
Well, that's kind of been kicking around since the inception or the original ideas. We were looking at Flow Designer about 14 months ago when it was still fresh off the drawing board, and those kinds of things came up. So I know that they're still in the queue somewhere.
Yeah, people are definitely thinking about all different kinds of ways of interacting with this stuff. So,
so Josh, if you click over to info and settings,
yeah,
I'll tell you the stuff that the stuff in particular, if you go to advanced settings, the ones that I always change, and ideally, like if we're going to do this general, I guess you probably, let's think specifically for 1 second and then general. Like I changed the language. I changed the caption certification. I changed, if you scroll down a little bit, I changed the stream optimization from normal to low latency. So what would be the best way, given that, we don't want to hard code my use case into this. We want to make it general enough to change any of those options.
I think these all just become inputs to that action. And these are
and you can pass them however you want to that action, be
like
it another table or user input or
like
whatever way you want to the action.
Like a name value pair of the key of the option you're changing and the value you want it to change to.
I mean, it could even just be a named input. So you could have a named input called caption certification and an input called, so on and so forth.
So we'd have an action. We'd have an action that basically like knows every one of those guys, or
yeah, and I mean, and that's because when you think about it, if you want this thing to be generally usable, you have to be able to pass those things in. Now the thing is, you
seems tedious though to pass them in individually. Though I would think this would be more of a profile thing where you set up a table full of YouTube profiles, but then kind of like credentials are, and then you use a reference to that as your input.
I mean, that's an option too. The challenge there is it becomes a question of, do you want the user to have to leave the Flow Designer environment to configure something? So at that point, you have to go back to the platform. You have to go and deal with a table somewhere.
But you generally set them up once and say, this is my live coding happy hour profile. I like my ingestion options set this way, this way, this way. Now, when you're doing the flow, you say, use the live coding happy hour options.
Is for the input types, is JSON one of those types? A JSON object?
So.
Not really. So is there an object
big
in
old
here?
string?
Yeah, there are currently some limitations in how that works. So you can't do sort of these structures and build them out quite the way you would want in that case. So key value pairs aren't exactly that flexible. I mean, what I would do, at least at this point, is the profile table is one thing. I think that's a possibility. But for the sake of this, I think you just put it in the action, and maybe you have another action that is, schedule using profile, and you do it that way.
Good discussion. I'm glad we get this crosstalk going with different options.
So the big question at this point is how we actually figure out which of these corresponds to what in the payload. So what's the first one you do, Dave? You
said the language first.
Language to English is one that I do. Caption certification to never broadcast on TV.
So I'll see if we can just get those two working.
Yeah, that
caption.
That seems reasonable goal. Two working means that you can get the rest.
Huh. So it's got a fully specified list of all those things. That's actually.
What's interesting though here is I don't see. So if I look for language, it's not showing up as a payload option. So if I do request body parameters, content details. Oh, that's interesting too. See the bound stream ID? Makes me wonder if you could like bind it in line and do a single call. But anyway.
Quite possibly.
That's a thing
you
for
don't seem
another
to have
time.
a lot of choices there.
Yeah, I don't see what we're looking for. I don't see. So that was under details. Let's see what's got under snippet. Hey.
I think one of the things that that we should probably appreciate from doing this is how weird the YouTube data structures are.
Their
Yeah.
API is weird, even in the Google sense of weird APIs, which I've done a lot of. The YouTube ones are an extra special group of folks doing those.
Well, YouTube wasn't originally part of Google, were they?
Not way back when.
These may date back
but it's
to
been a long time.
Yeah, but they've been Google for so long, one would think. I don't know that
these
these
APIs.
Yeah, I don't know that these are. Well, I don't know.
Chuck says APIs lives live long beyond.
We've got some of them in service now that have some 2004 quirks still hanging around. Like, why is it that way? Well,
way past
ask Fred.
Your API will be around.
I don't know. I don't see where you can actually set these things.
Okay. Well, we're getting towards the bottom of the hour. Let's leave that. That is, I think, an offline to do for you and me. So we are almost there in terms of like getting the thing actually scheduled.
Yeah.
Now, tell you what, if you want to stop sharing, we can kind of just take stock of where we're at right here.
Go ahead and find Skype and find the UI app menus in Skype to actually do the thing. Stop sharing screen. There we go.
And remember to turn my camera back on. Yeah. So at this point, so that's actually those couple actions and those API calls actually move this really close to like real world usability for me, like the use case of me. That's kind of like the thing we're developing for right now. We do have a couple of those things that we can find. The things that we still need to do, which may be way harder, is turning on the Google Compute VMs. But for now, if we've got YouTube scheduled, that's victory one. So, and that seems like we're achingly close to that. Yeah. So we've got to track down those options. And at this point, it's really not a technical issue. It's really a understanding the API issue.
Yeah, I mean, because the foundation is there. You can take the existing connection and just keep reusing it and modifying the payload accordingly. And there are a bunch of other operations out there. So there might be, maybe it's a different API call. There's control operations for starting things up and shutting them down. So it's probably just a matter of doing a little bit of reading.
Yeah, all right, I'm going to track down the APIs for the options. So theoretically, if one were to hunt those down, we could, by the time of scheduling the next one, this could exist. So this is my crazy windmill I'm tilting at. It's kind of like you guys remember the era of the RepRap 3D printers? Do you remember that long era where they were trying to get to a 3D printer that was printed by a 3D printer? It was that era.
Oh my.
Oh,
It was like the first time that GCC compiled GCC.
Right.
So when we have the first live coding happy hour that was scheduled by the flow designer for the live coding happy hour, that will be a
victory
big
will be
celebration.
achieved.
Yes.
Next time's on the table. I can't promise it, but it's on the table. So let's see how that goes. So with that said, beer ratings. Start with Josh. We'll go in the order that we're on Skype, counterclockwise. Clockwise.
So the Three Floyds Necron 99 is a solid 3.75 to 4, somewhere in that range. It's pretty good.
All right, Andrew.
Yeah. So this Known Gnome, which is a very interesting beer that's got secret herbs, and from Chicago, which makes Josh happy, is it's a 3.75. It's right in the same space. It's very interesting.
Chuck?
You know what? I think I found my favorite IPA. There's something
Really?
about this. Yeah. I was looking at the back of the can earlier, and it said deep orange hue and grapefruit. And I think it's the citrus flavors that really cut the bitterness and make this really enjoyable, because it's not one of those grab your tonsils kind of IPAs. And that citrus really warms it up. So I'm giving this a 4.0.
Nice.
Oh, nice.
And the Young's where's my camera?
So how
My
sad
Young's-
was yours, Dave?
Well, it's not a fizzy beer by nature, so it's not it really wasn't a big hit. So I don't even remember what I rated it last time. Let's call it a 4.0. I'm not going to hold my poor beer chain of custody against the beer itself. All right. So it was a delight to have. This is, by the way, the largest panel we've ever had. We've never had 4 people before. Welcome back, Josh. I hope that this is not a super rare event.
It's good to be back.
I'm glad he's got enough breathing room to join us.
We look forward to seeing everybody at Knowledge in a couple of weeks.
Oh, man.
That's right. We've got
It's going to be great.
2 Fridays between now and when we leave. We'll see. Ideally, best case scenario, we'll do this both times. I've been scheduling them fairly close to the wire because it's been really hard to predict the resourcing and availability on Fridays. But with any luck, we'll have 2 more. And then we as we said, we will have a live session of this at
You want to give a plug for any other sessions?
Boy, I don't have them in front of me. Do you guys? Anyone who knows the time, feel free to give them.
I've got CCW 0345, which is integrating your Amazon dash buttons, which we birthed on this show, turned into an actual session. There's one at Tuesday at 3:50 and Thursday, I believe it's at 3:30 or 2:40, somewhere in there. So it's a repeat. It filled up so fast, we repeated it on Thursday. And then we've got the Tech Now live sessions on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at 12:30 each day with Craig and Dave and myself.
That's in the Dev Theater, the Tech
That's
Now.
in the Dev Theater, yep.
Yeah, and our live coding happy hour will be in the Dev Theater as well. I think, do you remember, Josh, is it Thursday or Wednesday?
I think it's Wednesday.
I think it's Wednesday.
At 5, I think, right before. We think, because it's late, I think there will be beer being served on the floor that we can.
I figured it was
walk
the
over.
end of the day, because when they start rolling out the beer carts.
We're going to find a way to get beer there somehow. We'll put it that way.
Josh, any session that you want to plug?
So, I mean, I'll plug my own session. I have no idea which day it is or what time it is, but I'm doing one called Building Your First Integration Hub Spoke. So if you're interested in building a spoke from scratch and knowing some of the weird things like what happens when you put the word spoke at the end of your scope name. Anyway,
What?
Oh,
Yeah. Teaser
Yeah.
for later. And
you showed this to me earlier. It blew my mind.
Yep. And then, of course, doing live coding and doing the session that Dave already mentioned about this show and how we used Integration Hub and Flow Designer to automate it.
How we used.
Yes.
yes.
How we
in
how we
the
did
past
that.
tense.
How
Yes.
we did that.
Hopefully that's true by then. And I am speaking on Thursday at 1:30. Why not ServiceNow? Breakout session 0520. talking about how we go from just another ticketing system to why not ServiceNow and driving organizational change in a large enterprise.
I expect to see a picture of Zoidberg in that presentation somewhere. Why not ServiceNow?
And I will plug the one that's kind of near and dear to my heart, which is CCW 0471, and it happens Wednesday, and I think we got a repeat. Or what's the first day of the thing? Tuesday? Happens Tuesday. Tuesday, I think I actually have to leave Tech Now early because it starts at 1:30, I think. And that's test-driven development using the ServiceNow automation testing framework. So this is like not only a net new lab, but it's kind of like a net new concept. Me and a couple of our German consultants have gotten together and are kind of demonstrating a way. As somebody who spent his whole full stack career, the last 10 years of it, like training myself to do test-driven development, this is like exciting stuff to me because I'm nervous enough that I like to have a little robot underpinnings telling me that I'm doing the right thing. So
we are now, and I'll be interested to see about that, but we're starting to incorporate ATF in our development cycles for new stuff in my environment.
Cool. It's very compatible with that, right? So if you use it as both a development tool, then you almost for free, by definition, you're building up your library of acceptance tests as you go, which, day one doesn't mean that much because you're only testing one feature. But when you've been doing that the whole time, you're building your whole regression suite every time you do it.
Yeah, so we're already getting advantages, especially a faster Kingston upgrade for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, awesome. I cannot wait. It seems dangerously close, and yet at the same time, it's so far away. I can't wait till we get there. So, all right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you. Happy Friday.
We will catch you all again next time.
And the recording stops